5 names, if the Arizona Cardinals stick at number 16, that the Arizona Cardinals, you believe one of these players will be a member of the Cardinals. Let's go through in the order that they were revealed on our show. And then in the next segment, we're just going to kind of talk about what the list means, and we'll talk about some of the honorable mentions and the guys who were cut. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas, was the first name that was revealed.
Yeah, this terrific player. I don't know if he's going to be there or not. But listen, this is not a great tackle class. The top 3 guys would not be the top 3 guys, would not be in the top 3 last year or the year before. Those drafts were better. And there's probably going to be a little bit of a run on these guys because they really, literally, it just falls off the face of the earth after the top 4 or 5 guys. This guy is terrific. Sarkisian said, people think he's going to be a guard. He's not going to be a guard. He's just too good. Dominated some of the best players like Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, Tyree Wilson. Great size at 6'5", 315, Lombardi Award winner, Outland Trophy winner. Just would be a terrific player. If he's there at 16, you have to consider him. Yeah,
the question is whether he's going to be there at 16, and this is certainly one of the 5 that I think it's unlikely that they're going to be there at 16. And if he is, this might be a run to the podium kind of player if he's available. There's been some talk about moving him to guard, but understand that he's played nothing but left tackle for years and years and years. So any kind of other position other than tackle is going to require a little bit of a projection on him. Name number 2, the edge rusher out of Georgia, Michael Williams.
Had an ankle sprain in the opener against Clemson, so a lot of people think he wasn't fully healthy. Only 14 sacks in 3 seasons, so those numbers don't pop at you, but just elite ability. 4 of the 5 sacks last year that he had came in 2 games against Texas. He had 2 in each game. Runs a 4.5 40, 6'5", 265. So you're seeing, really good size right there. Just a lot of ability there, raw ability. I think he'd be a terrific guy to get your hands on and work with. Could end up being a terrific edge rusher.
Every single part about him looks the part of an edge rusher in the NFL.
Yes.
I mean, it just really does. He just looks physically like that is what an edge rusher in the NFL is supposed to look like. Team captain last year for 4 games. Some of the weaknesses on him, he played in a very deep rotation. He didn't play a lot of snaps last year per game for Georgia, only about 33, 34 per game. And again, kind of like with Shamar Stewart, one of those situations where the stats just don't match what you would expect out of a body like that. Name number 3 on the Gambo 5, Josh Simmons, the tackle out of Ohio State.
Yeah, the Cardinals' new offensive line coach was at Ohio State for the last few years. Had Josh Simmons there. There was a big knee injury, major knee injury. So there's some caution there. But a lot of people feel like he may be the best tackle in the class. And the medical evaluations from other teams and people have said, hey, it looks like it's good, look like he's fine. But he got hurt October against Oregon. So, you're by the time you get to July, you're probably 9 months coming off of it. So whether he's ready to go or not, I'm not sure. But that was a pretty big injury. But a lot of people feel that the talent is just too great. So if he is healthy, he's going to be well worth the pick.
I have a feeling it's going to be him. I have a feeling it's going to be Josh Simmons.
I'd be fine with
as the pick. There's just too much potential there, and there's just too much of a connection there between Paris Johnson Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., the offensive line coach now coming from Ohio State. Name number 4 on the list, Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss.
Yeah, he was at A&M, then he transferred to Ole Miss. He's a fast riser in this draft. A lot of quickness and power on the interior. Some people think he's a boom or bust guy. Short arms are the reason why you're like, oh, he could bust because he's got short arms. But the boom, the explosive first step. He's just got this incredible explosive first step. A little bit on the lighter side at 296 pounds. But again, a lot of people think he's a fast riser in this draft. A lot of teams are starting to take a look at him.
And then finally, name number 5 on the list is Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama.
Yeah, and I didn't do this for Ron. I did not do this for him. But this is a guy that's been a captain, a leader, most likely going to be the first guard drafted. You look at last year, no sacks allowed, 370 pass blocking opportunities. His pass protection is elite. Not the best athlete, right? Not the best athlete overall. Ran a 5.38 40, second slowest of the 29 offensive linemen that were there. But an everyday starter at left guard at a power program. This is a guy you look at with the leadership and being the captain. You say, okay, this guy, I can plug and play this guy right now.
Jordan Reed talking about Tyler Booker when he was on with us earlier.
You have to understand this about Tyler Booker. He's not going to be for every team just because he fits specifically in a man-gap power scheme. He's not an on-the-move zone type of runner. He's not very accurate climbing to the second level, reaching those linebackers. That's just not his game. But if you ask him to win in a short area in a phone booth, that's where that mauling power and that size takes over.
Yeah, and there's a reason why Ron Wolfley absolutely loves this guy. He believes that for the scheme the Cardinals run offensively, he's perfect. Like just a perfect plug and play. He could be your guard for the next 10 years. He's not a tackle, so there's that. 16 can be a little high to take a guard, but if he's the right guard and he's the right cornerstone guy, there's nothing wrong with taking a guard in the first round because, again, this is a going to the grocery store to get the staples kind of a draft, and there's nothing wrong with a guard in a situation
everybody
like
looks
that.
for tackles, right? But again, it's not a great tackle class, but there are some really good guards in this class. So you might be better taking the guard.
No, but if there's a tackle there, well, we'll talk about this in the next segment. But if there's a tackle there, and it's one of the few good ones in this draft, we'll see what the Cardinals are due when they're faced with that situation. So those are the five: Kelvin Banks Jr., Mykel Williams, Josh Simmons, Walter Nolan, Tyler Booker. The thing that stands out the most, obviously, is I keep using this word. It is very trenchy. It's offensive line. It's defensive line. That's you said yesterday there'd be no wide receivers. There weren't. You mentioned today no corners. There are no corners on this list. There's no corners among your honorable mention or the guys who were cut from this list. It's a very offensive line, defensive line oriented list you've got here.
It is. I ruled out wide receiver and I ruled out cornerback, and that allowed me to really focus on the trenches. And I think, Paris Johnson was the first pick under this regime, and then Darius Robinson last year in the first round. I think that there's a philosophy and that the best way to build a team is in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. And even in free agency, you look what they did with Sweat and Tomlinson and Calais Campbell. So I do think that's where they go. I expect that that's where they go. I don't know which one, offensive line or defensive line, but I would be really, really surprised if they took a wide receiver in the first round or a cornerback in the first round. So I'm going to rule those out, and I'm going to stick with they'll take somebody on one of the lines.
You have a player here in this five that you like, that you prefer, that in a perfect world is the one that they pick?
I was looking at that, and I think even though there's an injury concern with the knee, the potential that this guy could be the best tackle in the draft, Josh Simmons, I have a hard time looking past that to go to one of the other guys. Now, he wasn't there for the national championship game. He got hurt in the 6th game against Oregon. It's going to help him slide a little bit. And I know it's a risk. Because it was a real worse than an ACL injury. I get it. But everybody on film leading up to that is like, this is the best tackle in college football. There's nobody better. So if the medical evaluation proves to be healthy for him and looks good, I don't know how you pass on Josh Simmons if he's there.
Yeah, it all comes down to the medicals. He's a guy who made one of those, top 30 visits to the Cardinals, according to reports. And I got to imagine that part of that conversation was just to get an update on the medicals and so that the Cardinals training staff could spend a little more time with Josh Simmons. There have been multiple reports in the last week or so leading up to the draft that the concern around the league for Josh Simmons and his knee is minimal. Now, that, maybe for a few teams that it is, it's more than minimal and there's legit concern there. But he's the guy I would like. He's the guy that I think in a perfect world, the Cardinals find their right tackle of the future to go with their left tackle of the future.
So we're in agreement here. Out of the five guys, we're in agreement.
I said that when you revealed the name. Yeah. This is the guy I want.
Yes.
When you revealed that name at 3 o'clock, this is absolutely the name that I want. And I feel like he's going to be there just because there might be enough teams that are a little spooked off by the injury. You mentioned it. That injury is a serious, significant injury.
Patel, worse than ACL. Now, but again, like if the medical evaluation proves that he's healthy, that's fine. It happens. Guys hurt their knees. If there was a second guy, if you had a second choice, it's not. Who would your second choice be?
Kelvin Banks Jr.
Okay.
Boy, it's either him or Tyler Booker. Like, it's really close
So
between
you
him
still
or Tyler Booker.
so Banks or Booker?
So I would say Banks or Booker with boy, I hate that. I think Tyler Booker is a surer bet, but I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks Jr. because of the tackle thing. There's just such a premium on the tackle positions. Nothing against taking a guard that early. I feel like you can get guards a little bit later in the draft, maybe even the second round if you wanted to. I think I would go Kelvin Banks Jr. 2. I think I would go Tyler Booker 3. I think I would go Mykel Williams 4.
I think I'd go Mykel Williams 2.
Okay. And then I'd go Walter Nolan 5.
I know the sack numbers aren't there, but the athleticism and the toughness and the violence that he plays with and the 2 big games against Texas, 6'5", 265 pound. I think I'd probably go Williams 2, Banks 3. So I think we're close.
Yeah.
I think we're close there.
Who would you have last, Booker or Nolan?
I'd probably go Booker 4, Nolan 5.
Okay.
Because Nolan, again, he's a little bit light for that position. Shorter arms, boomer bust guy. So I think it's a little bit more of a riskier pick than Booker. So I'd probably take Booker over Nolan.
Look, and here's honestly the only reason. So you've got, let's go through this again. You've got Simmons 1, Williams 2,
Banks
3, Booker 4, Nolan 5.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be my 5.
I've got Simmons 1, Banks 2, Booker 3, Williams 4, Nolan 5.
Now,
the only reason why, one of the reasons why I'm putting those guys 4th and 5th, I believe the depth of those positions is a major draw to addressing that later. 2nd round, 3rd round. You know, like there's so many edge rushers in this draft and there's so many defensive tackles in this draft. Whereas I feel like with the offensive line, maybe there's a little bit more premium into committing yourself earlier in the draft to that position.
Yeah, there's not a lot. You're not getting a good tackle in the 2nd round.
So for me, I'm more of a pass on the Mykel Williams or Walter Nolan in the idea that 2nd round, I can get one of those guys and they're going to be maybe just as good because of the depth that's in this draft.
I'm going to say I don't even think the Cardinals take an offensive lineman in the 2nd round. I think that the offensive tackle, the tackles, I think the tackles drop off the board very, very early. I don't think that I don't think there's a good tackle that you're going to get in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think they're all going to go early.
Yeah, and that's why I want one of these guys
earlier.
Early. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, if there are no concerns about Simmons' medical, and that really is league-wide, and Jeremy Fowler, I think, was reporting on ESPN.com that he spoke to an executive who said, yeah, we're really not that worried about it. It seems like it's going to be fine. Then I do very much worry about whether he's going to be there at number 16 or not. I mean, again, I'm going to play this cut. This is from Todd McShay's show on The Ringer. Him and Steve Mensch talking about Josh Simmons. Listen to them rave.
Josh Simmons from Ohio State, I've said for most of the year, is the best offensive tackle in the class. And the more I look at it and the more I watch him, the more I'm convinced I was right then. If New England were to take Josh Simmons at 4 overall, I wouldn't even blink. He's that damn good. He is the most gifted tackle in this class. And
this is what I wrote. This was my first line.
It's not even close.
In all caps, most talented offensive lineman in the class, ... Not close IMO, in my opinion.
And I'll tell you something else. That's the guy who's worth waiting on, too. Like Garrett Williams a couple of years ago.
Sure.
You draft him.
Yeah.
He might not be ready for the start of the season. That's fine. That's fine. It'll be worth the wait. If he's really that good, it'll be worth the wait, and it's not that big of a deal. You know, I have no problem with that at all if that's what this ends up being.
The thing I don't know is if you did move down a little bit, are any of those 5 guys going to be there? Because I think 3 of these guys are going to be gone.
Bet you Booker is.
But Booker might be there.
Booker is.
You might be able to move down and get Booker. You might be able to if you decided to go that route.
I don't know if Nolan is. I don't think Mykel Williams is. I don't think Kelvin Banks is. I think you'd be taking a chance on whether Josh Simmons is. You know, it's the mocks are such a lousy gauge on this. You know, like it's all we've got to gauge it on. I've seen so many of them. You've seen so many of them. I'm basing this opinion off of the mocks. But based off of those, I think those 3 guys would be gone. Maybe Josh Simmons would be there if you move down.
Right.
and Tyler Booker would probably be there if you move down.
I think that Simmons is going to be there because I'm not buying that the Patriots are going to take him at 4. Again, the torn patella tendon injury is worse and more difficult to recover from than even an ACL. At 4, in the top 5, maybe too risky. Once you get past 10, teams might be saying, okay, that's worth it because if it pans out, he could be a stud.
Yeah, Kyle Hamilton seems to be the one that everyone's linking with the Patriots at number 4. We'll see.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.